Army veteran, YouTube celebrity extraordinaire, most importantly, just a pretty swell guy. These are all things that we're going to describe our next guest on the Jarhead Podcast. So let's stand up, hook up, shuffle to the door. Let's roll it.
You will treat all Marines with the highest level of respect, for we have earned our place as Marines and will accept nothing less than that from you.
This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. My rifle is my best friend. It is my life. I must master it as I must master my life. Without me, my rifle is useless. Without my rifle, I am useless.
Jarhead Podcast Season 2. This season is powered by our good friends over at Hyperion Munitions. Hyperion, we'll get into them a little bit more, but Hyperion's is a veteran-owned and operated manufacturing company down in Florida. They produce a lot of pistol and rifle calibers, but they also have a lot of different companies under their umbrella, like Garaysar Firearms, Orikany Arms, Veteran Ammo, and Operator Coffee. Like I said, we'll talk more about them here in a little bit, but we do want to say thank you. Go check out HyperionMunitions.com. If you're out there and you're a veteran, really anybody, but especially if you're a veteran and you're in that hole, you're in the darkness and you're looking for some light, call me, text me, email me 24/7. I cannot give you medical advice, but I could probably be a pretty decent person to talk to, maybe talking through stuff. More importantly, I can just sit there and listen if you need someone to listen. If you are looking for someone that can get you towards some medical advice, remember two things. One, you are not alone in this fight. You have a lot of brothers out here that are willing and able to help you in any way possible. And two, the world is a much better place with you in it. So please utilize the Veteran Crisis Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. Once again, 1-800-273-8255. Veterans, press the number 1. By the time this podcast comes out, it's going to be just after Veterans Day. So I want to do ahead and say a happy Marine Corps birthday, which is on November 10th. So happy birthday to my fellow Devil Dogs, and happy Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you to everyone that took the oath and thought of something bigger than yourself. So I really appreciate everyone for their service and all of that. Speaking of which, we have our good friend Mark from Fit and Fire. If you guys watch YouTube, this guy is as good as it gets. He's one of the big dogs out there. No, he's He's a great guy. We've known each other for several years now. Really kind of become more friends in the last year or so, but he's got a really cool story. He does a lot of cool stuff these days that is keeping himself in shape and doing a lot of the competition stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get going, let's bring Mark in and say hello. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Really, how are you doing?
Thank you for having me on. This is great. I, like you said, we've been able to, really connect this year, and we saw each other at SHOT Show, we saw each other at Trigger, and I'm just happy to be here, and I'm glad that we've been able to kind of foster that relationship this year.
Yeah, for sure. We don't live terribly far, probably maybe 6 hours or so, Arkansas to Kansas and all that. So it's kind of cool. Now, I know that you just, speaking of podcasts, you're just starting up a podcast too. You want to talk a little bit about that real quick?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. My buddy, Jefe, who runs the camera for me, he kind of pitched it to me late last year, and he's like, hey, man, we spend so much time not working out and just talking about gun stuff or comic book stuff or movie stuff, or he's like, why don't we just do a podcast? And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's figure it out. It took us a little bit longer than expected to try to figure it out, but once we did, it's been a lot of fun. We launched at the beginning of the month, the beginning of October, or excuse me, November rather, and it's called Live, Laugh, Larp Podcast, and it is just myself and my cameraman Jefe Actual, who is just sitting and talking, and it's really all the behind the scenes conversations that we have for the YouTube channel, right? So if we're talking about like the newest episode that we're going to be dropping on the 15th is about revolvers, right? And why I think revolvers are dumb. And why he's like, no, Mark, you're dumb. So
this sounds eerily familiar to a conversations that me and Clover have on the regular. And honest to God, that's how the Ghost and Clover podcast became a couple years ago. Was same thing. We were talking on the phone. We'd have these great phone conversations like, we should record these phone conversations. It'd be a great podcast. And so we just started doing it. And it's fun because it allows people to see other sides of you, not just the gun guy side of you. And I think that's really cool thing that the viewers get to kind of know who you are a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. The Live, Laugh, LARP podcast is going to be found on Apple, Spotify. I'm working on Google, but I don't know if Google it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. We're on Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, all that stuff. But yeah, Google's a weird one. I don't know either. I'm not sure about them. Something I saw a disclaimer, something about, and we're getting a little sidetracked here, but something about they are going away and it's going to be like connected to YouTube somehow.
Well, I mean, obviously, Google owning YouTube would make sense. Maybe YouTube's going to have their own podcast platform. I don't know. That would make sense. I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway, it doesn't matter. We are on every major podcast platform that's out there, and if you guys are,
and check the description below. All the links are going to be in there. So
Yep. So definitely make sure I get you all of that type of stuff. So, but so far it's just a lot of fun. Episode 1 was talking about the concept of defensive shooting versus competition shooting, and why you shouldn't get so butthurt about not being really good at competition shooting. Man, what was episode 2 about? I don't even remember what it's been a day. It's been one heck of a day. I've been on the road for 7 hours today, and it was grueling. It was grueling. But I, for whatever reason, I'm spacing out what episode. Oh, that's right.
There you go. Hey, the peanut gallery knows, doesn't she?
Exactly, right. We were talking about PCCs, PDWs, pistol caliber, PDWs, that type of stuff. So, I like it. Yeah. So
good stuff.
But it's been a lot of fun so far. We're hoping to continue this well into the future, and we'll have special guests on and stuff like that, and we'll have you on whenever we figure that out.
We can have fun. We can have fun with that for sure. Definitely go check that out. Like I said, all the links are going to be in the description below, not only to Fit and Fire, which is his YouTube channel and all of his social media, but also the podcast and all that. I know, can they find your podcast through your website as well?
They can also find us on Instagram. That's a good way to connect with us. It's just Live, Laugh, LARP _podcast. And that will then, if you go into our bio, you can find our link tree, and then it's going to link you to everything. So
just the name Live, Laugh, LARP, that just sounds like it's going to be a fun podcast.
Yeah. The episode 1
sounds great.
Episode 1 just kind of kicked the door down, and just we just kind of razzed each other the entire time. And then we got a little bit more serious in episode 2, and then episode 3 it's trading blows. We trade blows with each other all the time. He calls me a disgusting fat body all the time.
And so, I know you, and that is not true.
well, if you put me next to Hefe,
maybe, yeah.
You can see that, I should not be eating jelly donuts. So.
We do have a little cushion, but that's okay. It's okay to have a little cushion now.
Absolutely.
I think we all like to still be at 25 and in the best shape of our lives, but we all know that's not true.
Yeah. So I celebrated my 25th birthday in Iraq, in Baghdad.
Oh.
Yeah, and we'll
talk about that probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's do that. Before we do that, before we get this, let's go to the pit. This is a fun rapid fire. So what kind of first thing that comes to your mind and all that? And this one's going to be brought to you by Garaysar.
Oh,
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
Hey, that's the first thing that starts. Hey, the first thing that comes to your mind. Perfect. Garaysar is a Florida-based international military arms manufacturer and equipment supplier. They produce customized solutions for American and international law enforcement, governmental agents, and the military. Garaysar manufactures both forged and billet AR-15 lowers, dedicated 9mm lowers, and 308 upper and lower receivers. So go check out the Hyperion Munitions website and click on the Garaysar Arms tab. Let's get kicked off. Let's do this one. What was your favorite MRE, if you had one?
Ooh, favorite MRE? Chicken and salsa.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Least favorite MRE.
Least favorite chili mac.
That's fair. That's fair.
That takes you back a little bit. That actually takes you backwards in time a little bit, because I don't even think they offer chili mac anymore.
They probably don't. It was when I was in the 90s, chili mac was actually not the worst. We're talking like the tuna was really bad, and the veggie omelet was terribly bad. I don't know if you guys had that or not.
The veggie omelet, yes, but I never ate one.
You're good.
Yeah. But
if you ever needed to clear your system out, that was what you needed to. It was the veggie omelet.
True. That is 100% true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not that I would know. I never ate it, but I've heard stories.
Yeah, it's bad. I hope to God they're not offering that anymore. Yeah, who knows? While your military time, not in civilian world, but during the military time, what was your favorite gun or weapon system that you got to shoot?
That would be the M1A1 Abrams tank.
Fantastic. That's a winner. That's a winner, because of all the episodes we've had in both seasons, that tank has not come up yet. So that's a winner so far.
So fantastic. We'll get into it, but just a preamble. I was a tank gunner at one point in time in my military.
That must have been amazing. Not gonna lie.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely talk about that one for show. What's the worst place you ever went to?
In the military, or just
in the military?
Okay, in the military. Fort Polk, Louisiana. Yep.
Well, that just goes without saying. I mean, anything else, to all you Louisiana people, I'm sorry, the Cajuns down there, but Louisiana is not the greatest place in the world.
I can tell you nothing against the people down there whatsoever, but
the mosquitoes are like that big, aren't they?
Yeah, it's huge. But the thing about it was, the only time that I ever came close to passing out because I was so hot was because I was in Louisiana. So
yeah, you're talking like 100 degrees with like 80% humidity, and
exactly. And a rain shower every day at 2:00. So was
it rain, or was it just the humidity?
Well, what would happen is obviously it's the humidity, because you're right up against the ocean, or the Gulf rather. But also when I was there, which coincidentally was right before Hurricane Katrina. Yeah, we left like 2 days before Katrina hit. But
are you serious?
Yeah. I was down there at the time. I was driving for a general, and we went down to watch, to observe some training of one of our units that was down there. And every day at about 1400 hours, there would be a rain shower that would pass through, right? So, you get a little reprieve from the heat because the clouds would block the sun, and then
it becomes a sauna.
Exactly.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how that works that way?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah,
man, yeah, I can only imagine. First car. What was your first car?
Oh my goodness, a 1987 Chevy Nova.
That's actually pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie. That's kind of cool.
Like
a Nova is not the worst car. Like, it's a kind of a cool car to have, No,
not the muscle car. Not the muscle car.
I know what the Nova is. Yeah,
right. But this was the Chevy version of a Toyota Tercel in the late 80s. Right. That was
I guess I don't remember this one.
Yeah, this is late 80s.
I'm going to look that one up.
Yeah. You're looking up. ridiculous.
He's like, no, it was not cool. So did that help you or hinder you with the ladies?
Oh, I mean, you just take one look at me. It didn't hinder me at all.
It didn't matter, not one bit. Exactly.
I don't know.
Oh man. What was the first gun you ever bought?
Oh no, you would have to ask me that. First gun I ever bought, 2005 Springfield XD45.
See, okay, so
brand new to the market.
Like, I have XD9, and I am not the hugest Springfield fan, but I kind of dig the XD. Like, the XD was pretty cool. And I think it's still kind of cool. Is it the greatest gun in the world? No, but it's a kind of a cool gun. The XD series was pretty cool. I liked it.
Yeah, the XD45 was just this massive brick in your hand. I mean, worse than...
See, I had the 9, so...
Yeah, worse than the Glock 21, in my opinion.
Ooh, that's tough. That's tough to beat. That's tough.
And I bought it because I wanted to have a firearm to protect myself, and then I realized, okay, I'm carrying a hand cannon around. I'm not going to be able to conceal this very easily. So, yeah.
This is not a rapid fire question. It's going to be kind of the first question we go into. Guns. Were you into guns, or would you consider yourself a gun person before joining the military? I mean, did you grow up hunting or around guns growing up?
So I did grow up around guns, but not to the extent that I am today. Okay. I didn't hunt at all when I was a kid. I wish I would have, because I can tell you right now, I'm in the best hunting season of my life this year. I've taken my first buck in 10 years, and it's the biggest buck that I've ever taken. I've gotten a lot of really interesting activities in the field as far as deer hunting this season. I've never seen deer spar before, bucks. I've never seen bucks spar before. I've never seen a buck grunt and stuff like that. All of this has happened in the last 2 weeks because the rut's getting ready to start. But I digress. With the as far as firearms goes, my dad was a collector. He was an FFL at one point in time. We would go down to the Wanamaker Tulsa Gun Show, which will be happening next weekend. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend.
I will be there.
Yeah, I'm missing out because we can talk about that later. But but we would go to the spring and fall gun show every single year down there in Tulsa, and it was a treat to go to the range with my dad. And we would shoot whatever he was interested in shooting, I guess. And most of the times it was one of his 1911s that he had. So we just kind of fell in love. And anytime that we got to go shoot, it was like, man, it was like Christmas, because we did it about once or twice a year, and I thought that's what people did. And then, then I grew up, and I was like, wait a second. That's not what people do. And the thing
I grew up, and I never shot guns until joining the military. I mean, I probably shot 22 at my buddy's ranch growing up, but the first time I really shot a gun was in boot camp when I shot the M16A2, and you have that aha moment. And it was like, oh my gosh. So I get home from boot camp, and we get 10 days off between boot camp and combat training. And I landed one night. The first thing I did the next morning was go to Walmart and bought me a Winchester 30-30.
Oh, nice.
So I was in, like $150 at Walmart, but I was in at that point. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool.
That's cool. I don't think that I ever shot a rifle. My dad had a little single shot 22 long rifle, right? Breech loading.
Oh, wow. Nice.
I have it in the safe right now. And I shot that. I shot some black powder stuff, but man, I don't think that I ever shot a rifle until I went to basic training. And then it was the M16A2. you know, so, and yeah, same thing. I just fell in love with it. Was not the worst shooter. So
Right.
there's that. I wouldn't say that I'm really good, but I've been able to shoot a mile on 2 separate occasions, which was really cool.
Right.
You know, so
Absolutely.
yeah. But
Yeah.
So not necessarily like a gun guy growing up, but I was around
But you were exposed
Exactly.
to guns.
Yeah.
Now we asked you the question, what was your favorite weapon system to shoot in the military? Now I'm going to go ahead and open it up to every day of your life. What has been, if you have one, what's your favorite gun that you've shot, whether you own it or not?
Man, that's really tough.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. Really is. I would say probably for pistol, my favorite so far that I don't, and I don't even own one, is the 2011 Staccato, 2311, whatever you want to call them. Those are a lot of fun to shoot because you've got the shootability of the 9mm, but you have that trigger of a 1911. That
1.5 pound, seemingly the single action 1911 trigger, just like it's great.
It's so great. Nice. It's so nice. As far as a rifle goes, the one rifle that I oh man, there are so many. I guess the one rifle that means the most to me is the 1988 Ishmash AK-74.
Oh, the 74.
Yes, that I built with Jim Fuller.
Did you really?
I did. I unfortunately had to take the video down because I did a video, but I had to take it down because you remember last January everybody was getting strikes
for assembly and disassembly and all of that.
Yeah, and I didn't show anything. I just showed like really close-up shots of me like smashing a rivet or drilling something, but I never showed like a tutorial on how to do things. They still gave me a strike on it. So
do you still have that video like in your library? You should put that on like on Rumble or something and send people that. Oh, is it on Rumble?
No, I just haven't taken the time to upload.
That'd be kind of cool.
But it's ready to go.
At least there's an archive out there so people can watch that, something.
Yeah. And Jim Fuller, when it comes to the American AK, he's the dude. He's the grandfather.
He's the man.
You have other people like Mark Krebs, who does great work with Krebs Customs. You have new guys like AK Mario with SOF Defense. He's an up-and-comer. And obviously you've got Rifle Dynamics, you got Lee Armory, you've got Meridian Defense, you've got all these AK guys out there. But the moment that you say Jim Fuller, everybody knows.
They all knows. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And most of those others have had either, whether they know it or not, are exposed to him somehow, some way.
Influenced by him in some way. Somehow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Veteran Ammo is the ammunition brand produced by veteran-owned and operated Hyperion Munitions, focused on the best quality training, defense ammunition, and hunting products. They leverage their military backgrounds to ensure the ammunition works every time. They offer products in centerfire handgun, rifle, and shot shell categories and are always adding product offerings. Go visit the Hyperion Munitions website and click on the Veteran Ammo tab. All right. This is going to be an interesting question, and you can go as in depth or not as you want, but joining the Army, was that something that was planned, or was it a spur of the moment? Like, what were the steps leading up to you joining the Army?
So step one was my father taking me to see Top Gun in the theater.
You wanted to be a pilot, didn't you? Like everybody else.
I did.
Everybody did. Yeah.
I went and saw that movie, and that day, the moment that I got done watching that movie, I knew that I was going to be in the military. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. Obviously, I wanted to be a pilot. I grew up, I was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas. McConnell Air Force Base was, as the crow flies, about a mile and a quarter away from my house. My elementary school was less than that, so probably about a mile from the end of the runway. So I got to see in the 1980s, I got to see every single aircraft that was in the Air Force inventory. So KC-135s, B-1 bombers, B-2s, F-4 Phantoms, F-16s, F-15s, the F-117. You know, through the 80s and 90s, I got to see everything fly in.
Iconic aircraft.
To include the, I don't know the nomenclature, but the Boeing 747 with the space shuttle on top of it.
Oh, with the attachment? Yeah.
That flew into McConnell. It refueled.
With the shuttle or just the plane itself?
With the shuttle. Yep.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I got to see all of that. I was exposed to all of that. T-38s, you know, they flew in and flew out all the times. And so that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to fly. My dad, Wichita is known as the air capital of the world because
I did not know that.
Yes, it is known as the air capital of the world because it has the most aircraft manufacturing companies plus the Air Force there as well. So you've got Spirit, you've got Bombardier, you got Learjet, you've got now it's Textron, but it used to be Beechcraft and Cessna.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay. You had Boeing there for a very, very long time. They moved back up to Seattle because they're their headquarters was there, but they had their defense branch at McConnell as well. Naturally, you had McConnell Air Force Base, which was a SAC headquarters at one point in time, so Strategic Air Command headquarters. So, you know, there was just this like conglomerate of aircraft industry.
And who would have thunk in Wichita? Like of all places, you know? Exactly.
If you ask my dad, it was because of Madam Beach, the owner of Beechcraft. She is the one, according to my father and his stories, she's the one that really pushed for all of that to happen. And one of the interesting things is, at least when I was young, Beech Aircraft, their block mile of land that their facility and airstrip was on is not a part of the Wichita footprint. So as Wichita expanded out and started to encompass all of Beechcraft and where they were, they just kind of went around it and they're like, yeah, you're not going to be a part of the city. And
she was probably okay with that.
She said, she told us, she says, we will never be incorporated into the city. And the moment that you do, we will leave.
And they don't want to lose that for sure.
Definitely. But anyway, so let me get back on task here. So I saw Top Gun. Top Gun. I wanted to be a pilot. Grew up in a aviation industry town, and then in 7th grade, I went to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor said, "Yeah, you need glasses." And I started wearing glasses from 1990 to 2001. I had to wear glasses, and at that point, I knew that I was never going to be a pilot.
If only LASIK existed back then, right?
Right, exactly. Well, fast forward.
I don't know. Can you still get LASIK and still be a pilot? I guess. I guess you probably could, couldn't you?
Yeah, you can, and that's why I ended up getting LASIK on a very notable date, December 7th of 2001 is when I had my surgery to get LASIK surgery.
So literally the 60th anniversary.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Literally.
I found out that the Army was allowing individuals to get LASIK surgery and then to apply for a waiver to become a pilot. And for 19 kilos, the MOS 19 kilo, which is a tanker in the U.S. Army, about the only course of action for you to become a pilot is to go warrant officer. And you have two choices. You can either be a basically a warrant officer tech for tanks, or you can become a pilot. That was like the only two choices you had at the time. And so I was like, well, naturally I was going to try to be a pilot, and I tried to start my packet, but didn't happen. But let me back up one step before we get to that point, and because I'm just all over the place. So go through high school, had to wear glasses. I knew that I probably wasn't going to do something, and I was going to sign up for the military. I had a pretty rough time in high school. Unfortunately, I really had not the worst, but not the best home life. My dad, my mom were always fighting with each other, and I just got tired of it. And I told him, I was like, I'm out of here. The first moment that I get, I'm out of here. And don't ask me why, but I wanted to be a Marine. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, I don't.
You're probably better off that you didn't,
Well, maybe not, but I think the most influencing aspect of me wanting to be a Marine is the movie Heartbreak Ridge, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Great movie.
Big fan of Clint Eastwood all around, but that movie was the second notable movie, the second most notable, I don't know what word I'm trying to use here, but military movie that I remember watching, and I was like, that's cool, And so I wanted to be a Marine. I went to the recruiting station, talked to a guy, and he's like, well, look, you're 17. We need obviously signatures from your parents. I said, that's going to be tough, but you can come on over. So I told my dad, I was like, hey, I took the ASVAB and got some recruiters that want to come and talk. The first one that's coming over is the Marines. And my dad's like, yeah, well, you're not doing that. And I felt so bad. The freaking guy that came over was a corporal. Yeah. And you could tell that he was fresh on the trail. Oh, and I'm sure. He sat down, he was just sweating bullets, and my dad just grilled him, what skills is he going to get when he gets out, and what type of civilian transition marketing is he going to have to be able to have something after he gets done with the military, and and then the recruiter left, and my dad's like, yeah, you're not doing that. And I'm like, okay. So I was going to do that, and then my dad was connected to the Navy. He never was in the Navy, but when he was in college, he was a part of Navy ROTC. Sure. About the time I was ready to graduate, my brother was in the Navy. He was an avionics technician on the USS Kitty Hawk. And so my dad was a avionics technician for Beechcraft at the time. So it was just kind of a foregone conclusion that I would just follow the same path. Yeah. And then my brother, he's like,
then you realize it's the Navy. Like,
no. So my brother, he actually talked to me on the phone, and he was like, he was in Japan at the time. And he said, look, dude, here's the thing. You've got the whole rest of your life ahead of you. There is no reason for you to jump into the military right now. What I would suggest you do, the best advice he ever gave me, what I suggest you do is go to college for 1 semester. And if you like it, keep on going. If you don't like it, you've only lost 6 months, then the military is going to be there. Then you can make a decision after that. And that's what I ended up doing. Great advice.
Yeah. That's great advice out there.
And let me tell you, this is going to pay off here. I'll explain it to you here in a bit. But so I got into college, just community college, just outside of Wichita, and started doing my associate's degree. It took me a little bit longer than I expected to, because whoopsie, I got my girlfriend knocked up, so
Life takes over.
It does, right? So knocked up my girlfriend. Next thing I know, I'm working full time. I'm going to school full time. I'm trying to raise a kid, and also at the same time trying to help, my baby's mama get through school as well.
Right.
So just life takes over, and then the next thing I know that I get married to my son's mom, and she says, "Hey, I've got accepted into Manhattan Christian College in Manhattan, Kansas, and I'm taking it up. So either you find a new job, or we're going to have to be apart for a time." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, we'll figure it out." Hey, funny story. There's this thing called Fort Riley, and it's right outside Manhattan, and I could just join the army,
How about that?
So, February 27th of 2000, I went to MEPS and raised my right hand and joined the army. Became a tanker. Long story short, I won't go into that, but
awesome.
Became a tanker. And the interesting thing was with the army, and same with the Navy, the world's your oyster. You can pick just about any job, You get into, I suppose the Air Force is kind of the same way, but like with the Marines,
it's a little different.
Yeah, your destination is pretty predetermined for you, right?
A lot of it is, to get into some specialty stuff, you have to score. Mm-hmm. And then I remember, scoring very high in the ASVAB, and I knew what I wanted to do. And then when I got to boot camp, I got pulled out of boot camp at least 5 or 6 times to take linguistic class tests, see how quickly I can learn different languages. I had to take 2 different IQ tests, all these different things. And you're like, okay, what's all this about? And I noticed like there's me and one other guy was getting pulled out all this time, and no one else was. And I didn't understand, as I didn't know anything about it. But there are certain things that you'll have to continue to do testing for. But you're right. In the Marine Corps, everyone's a rifleman, no matter what job you have. So there's not a ton. I mean, there's probably, I don't know what the percentage is, maybe 25%, at the most 50% of the jobs available, but we're also much, much smaller than you guys are. There's only, I think when I was in, there was like 150 Marines in the world at the time. So we're very much smaller. So I think that we all have each Marine has their different missions, and the Army's mission is obviously much, much bigger than the Marine Corps' mission,
Yeah, absolutely. So, I scored very well in the ASVAB and was given the choice. They said, you can pretty much do anything you want, but you can't do military intelligence. And I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. But, but I'm sitting there, and I had grown up Navy orientated, avionics technician. When I went to the Navy recruiter, they were trying to get me into some type of like nuclear technician on a sub, and my brother's like, no, do not do that.
I don't know if I'd want to be on a sub. I mean, I don't think that would be fun. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't know. But his selling point was, hey, look, dude, you don't want to be on a sub, and you don't want to be a nuclear engineer, or engineer mate, or whatever they call it, because you're going to be the first one on the boat and you're going to be the last one off, and you don't want to do that. So okay, well then I get into the Navy or into the Army, and I'm like, I don't know what job there is. I mean, I don't want to be an infantry guy, but I want to do something that I want to do something that I feel like fits my personality. And I could have gone military police. I could have gone electrician or welder or a Black Hawk crew chief or whatever, But I was like, no, I'm a scrapper. I'm a fighter. I got suspended from high school so many times for fighting. Because
I want to blow something up or something,
Exactly. Yeah. So, they said, well, I mean, if you wanted, you could be on tanks. And I was like, yes, let's do that. Tanks sound cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
With years of expertise and experience, Orikany Arms is proud to be regarded as a firearms manufacturing leader. Every decision is inspired by the main mission, which is to prove the highest standard of product and services to both retailers and customers. Orikany Arms took their expertise and introduced a line of full-size American-made Series 1911 chambered in 45 ACP, 10mm, and 9mm. So go check out the Hyperion Munitions website and click on the Orikany Arms tab.
So, joined in 2000, ended up at Fort Riley, which is great.
Now, let me ask you a question before you move on. Were you able to request Fort Riley, or did you just happen to get really lucky?
No, I was able to request it because in 2000, incidentally, for whatever reason, they started a slow ramp up, and this was actually before the election of 2000.
Okay.
Right. So the election hadn't happened, but all of a sudden the military started ramping up. And so they, at least for the Army, they were offering up to a $20,000 sign-on bonus for new recruits. Now, my cousin, I hate to sidetrack, I'm trying to make this as...
No, you're fine. No, you're great.
Yeah. But
this is really interesting. So, yeah.
So my cousin had joined the Army and had been promised a certain duty station and ended up getting that duty station. Then all of a sudden, like 2 years into their enlistment, oh, you got to go to Korea. And they got separated from their family. And, my cousin, woman who was, has a family, has kids, that was pretty difficult. I mean, it's kind of unheard of, especially in 2000. There was nothing going on then. Why does she have to go to Korea, So she gave me some advice. She said, hey, look, when you enlist, do not do 4 years, because if you do 4 years, then you have that time where they can pull you away and send you to Korea. So what you do is you sign up, you get stabilization, you sign up for 3 years, you got your boot camp, your AIT, and then you get stabilization for at least 2 years. That gets you at 2.5. They can't send you to any other place.
Because you've only got 6 months left.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I said, okay. I took that piece of advice. I went to the recruiter at MEPS and I said, okay, this is what I want. I want to be a 19 kilo tanker. I want Fort Riley and I want 3 years. And they're like, well, I mean, we'll haggle with you. And they haggled with me and they said, okay, we got it all figured out. Are you sure you want to do 3 years? If you do 4 years, we'll give you a $19,000 sign-on bonus. If you do 3 years, it's only $9,000. What do you want to do here? And I was like,
interesting.
Right? They put that carrot right in front of you.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah, they did. I said, no, I got to do 3 years. I said, okay, fine. So I did 3 years. Signed up for 3 years. Unbeknownst to me, something happened while I was in basic training. So I went to basic training for tankers. It is a one-stop unit training, or what they call OSIT. They do it for tankers, Cav scouts, infantry guys, and I think artillery guys. So your combat arms peeps.
Sure.
So I was basic training for 17 weeks straight. Got done with that, went to Fort Riley, got into my first unit, and was there for 7 months. I was there for 14 months. And all of a sudden one day I get called and we have a formation and they said, hey, where's Specialist Grimsley? So I'm like, yeah, right here. They're like, yeah, you got a levy brief. And I was like, what's a levy brief? And then all the guys around me is like, oh, somebody's going to Korea. So what happened while I was in basic training, they rescinded that stabilization memorandum that they had. And
welcome to the United States military.
That's exactly right. And sure enough, after 14 months of being in the military, they said, "You, sir, are going to Korea," which ended up
they extend you, or do they have to extend your contract, or
no. Nope.
Okay.
I ended up. I guess that's 14 months isn't correct. I had been at Fort Riley for 7 months, so I still had 2 years left in my contract. So that's why I went to Korea. So I ended up in Korea in 2002. Was there basically from January of 2002 to January of 2003, and I'll tell you, it was best year of my life. I didn't know it at the time.
I spent some time in Korea. Briefly, I wasn't there stationed there, but we spent some time there. But yeah, I spent my overseas station was Okinawa, Japan. I was only actually on island. I was there for about a year, but I was actually only there for about 5 or 6 months because we were gone doing stuff. But I met my wife there, like best year. It's awesome. I was 19 years old, 20 years old, and loving life. But I also chose to go there because I figured, I'm not going to ever go to Japan, and I can make them pay me for it and all that stuff. But I really enjoyed it. But yeah, when you're not expecting it, probably not the greatest news you had, I bet.
No, but the biggest, for me, it really hit the family hard. But for me, I was like, this is why I joined the military. I wanted to join the military to go see the world. Right. And so this is a really cool opportunity. Well, I spent my year in Korea. I got promoted to sergeant while I was there. So E5, I made E5 in 2 years, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
Got back, and as soon as I hit ground back at Fort Riley, I had to re-enlist while I was in Korea.
Oh, okay. You're over there.
All right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because they said, if I remember correctly, they were telling me that if I didn't re-enlist, then there's no guarantee that I would end back up at Fort Riley. And I had to go back to Fort Riley because my wife at the time was still in college. So, okay, fine. I'll re-enlist. I'm just going to stay in anyway, right? And got Fort Riley, got a sign-on bonus to re-enlist as well, and came back to Fort Riley, and we were doing our newcomers brief by the assistant division commander for maneuver. He came in and said, hey, this is just for the NCOs. All the Joes, get out of here. They all leave. The ADCM, he was like, hey, guys.
We're gone.
Don't unpack your bags.
Yep.
This is January of 2003. They said at that time, they were like, don't unpack your bags. You're leaving soon. Yep. So, I was home for about 3 months from Korea and off to Baghdad.
Did you have a sense that was probably going to happen? Because obviously, a year and a half after you get in, towers fall, GWAT starts. Being the MOS of a tanker, you got to figure this is what we're here for. Did you figure eventually this was going to happen?
I wasn't sure. I wasn't really connected with worldly events at the time. Obviously, I knew 9/11. Funny story. We were supposed to fly to NTC for Irwin, California to do our NTC rotation. NTC stands for is National Training Center. The Army goes there. They'll send a battalion or a brigade to the NTC. We play in the sandbox for a little bit. It's to basically it's the grade card for a battalion or a brigade commander.
It's an assessment. Yeah, absolutely. I know what you're talking about. We call it different things, but yeah, everyone goes through all of that. Yeah.
I think 29 palms is yours.
29. Yeah, we would go up to the stumps and play in the as the boxes, you would say. Yeah. And yeah, you're assessed on readiness. You're assessed on doing your job proficiently. You're given different tasks. You have X amount of time to complete tasks. It's a, like you said, it's a report card, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. So we were actually supposed to fly just a couple of days after 9/11. We were all prepped up, ready to go. Yeah, we had already sent our vehicles on the railhead to go to the National Training Center. And we're just waiting to catch our flight, and then 9/11 happens. So it was about, I want to say, maybe 10, 14 days after 9/11, things kind of calmed down enough for us to catch a chartered flight to California. But after that, I wasn't around for very much longer, went to Korea, came back from Korea, then got back to my same unit that I had left, which is
that's interesting.
It's not something that happens very often, but I wanted to get back because all my friends were still there, and as soon as I got back to Kansas from Korea, I went straight to the sergeant major and said, "Hey, sergeant major, I don't know if you remember me, but just got back from Korea. I was the battalion commander's tank driver before I left, and I'd like to come back." And he's like, "Yep, give me your name, give me your social, we'll get you here." And sure enough, I was right back there. But incidentally, they had been getting tons of personnel into the unit, so they didn't have a spot for me. Ooh. So they were like, "We're going to put you in operations, and we're going to make you, we'll make you the school's NCO. Have fun with that." So what does a school's NCO do in the S3 shop when you get deployed?
I have no idea.
Anything the major wants you to do. So I ended up being
sergeant major's bitch, basically, huh?
Pretty much, but realistically, I became.
It could be worse if you're going to be someone else's bitch. At least it's a sergeant major's bitch,
Yeah, pretty much. But I was the junior most NCO of the S3 shop, and the only thing that they could really come up with was basically an RTO. I was the battalion talk RTO NCOIC, I guess, if you want to call it.
That's a title right there, man. That's a title right there.
So my first job on the deployment, once we took off for Iraq, we landed in Kuwait, and my very first job was burning shit.
Literally.
Yes, that was my very first job. It's like, oh, this is exactly what I signed up for.
People just don't understand the reality of what happens.
Yeah. But it turned out to be, the deployment actually turned out to be really, really good. Ended up being able to do some foot patrols as a RTO. The very first foot patrol that I ever did, I didn't have a per MTO. I wasn't issued a rifle. I was issued a pistol. So they're like, well, if you're going to go on a foot patrol, you need a rifle. So just go over to the arms room and talk with our guy, and he'll get you set up with a rifle. So I went over and talked to him, and I said, "Hey, I need a rifle." And he's like, "Well, we don't have anything to give you except for we got this AK-47 over here. Do you know how to use one of those?" And I was like,
"Yes,
actually, matter of fact, I do. My dad has one." Yeah. And never touched it before in my life, but my dad did have one, and they gave me. You might
have known the manual of arms or something. At least you're familiar with it, right?
No,
not at all.
No. Okay. I know that this was the trigger and this is where you hold it, but I didn't understand the safety lever at all. And so, okay, whatever. But they gave me underfolder AK-47, and that's
what a great first rifle ever to be issued. That's incredible.
So here I am walking around Baghdad with an AK, and all these kids are coming up, and they're like, "Where did you get this?" You know, of course, they're not talking in English, but they're pointing, and they're like, so me being the the American that I am, I'm just like, oh, I killed an Iraqi, and I took it.
Yeah. You want a Snickers bar?
Right. So,
that is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. So, not too long after that first foot patrol, there was an incident in one of the line units, and they actually ended up firing the platoon sergeant and his gunner, and there was an E7 in the operations office or operation shop, S3, that didn't have a job as well. And they're like, "You're the new platoon sergeant, go find yourself a gunner." And I'd kind of buddied up with him, and he's like, "Hey, Grim, you want to be my gunner?" And I was like, "Yep, let's do it." So I would say probably only about 5 weeks into my year deployment, I was finally back on a tank as a gunner in Baghdad. And and this was 2003, so it was like Wild West, So
my next question was going to be, what's the craziest story? I'm assuming that maybe one of those craziest stories comes at this point.
Yeah, I've got a couple different ones. So, oh man, I've got more than a couple. Let's do the first one. The first situation that we ever ended up running into. It was pretty quiet. We weren't part of the spearhead into Baghdad or anything like that. We got there right after the Thunder Run into Baghdad. Yep. So we were all about stability operations, right? So I don't want to portray myself as, being a tank gunner and we just went in there and blew up a whole bunch of T-72s, nothing like that. No. But we were tasked with combat patrols within Baghdad, stability operations, that type of thing. And we get into the summer, and I don't know if you remember these two guys. They're not really the most popular dudes, but Uday and Kusei.
Oh yeah.
You remember when they got
were
taken down?
the golden children, if you will. Yeah.
So Saddam's two boys, they ended up getting basically squashed by their own house, right?
Yeah.
And that night, Baghdad just popped off. I mean, you had freaking people celebratory fire into the air. Everybody's in the streets.
What goes up must come down, folks. Let's just be real about it.
That is true. That is absolutely true. But there was a whole bunch of celebratory fire. There's people in the streets. They were happy about everything going on. And we still had a mission. One of our missions was to go and post up just outside of an Iraqi police station and to just guard it. We were just sitting there guarding. And we are hanging out. My driver actually is my loader, who was actually driving the tank. We're down some personnel, so we had to run a 3-man tank instead of 4. So my loader was driving, I was loading. Tank commander was doing dual duty as gunner, tank commander. So me and my tank commander, platoon sergeant, we are in the hatches, and my driver is out of the hatch, leaning up against the front slope of the turret, turned to us, talking with us. And just at the moment that I looked down and saw that I had taken my Kevlar off and laid it down, I looked down at it and I was like, man, I should probably put that on. So I went ahead and put it back on. At that moment, bang, swoosh. If anybody knows that sound, it's probably going to trigger some PTSD.
Oh my God.
Dude popped around the corner, saw us, and I don't think that we were the intended target, but he popped around the target with an RPG and shot at us. Just boop, pew, shot at us. Freaking. If you've ever seen Black Hawk Down, right? Black Hawk Down has all of these. Yeah, great movie. Love it. Just
very realistic movie. Let's be honest.
It really, really is. And I actually just watched it on October 13th, Friday the 13th, the day of days. I guess it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Sitting there watching that movie, loading magazines.
I was in Mogadishu a year, almost to the day after Black Hawk Down. That's when we landed in Mogadishu. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, so watching Black Hawk Down, you watch these Somalis with their RPGs, and you know it has the little poof in the sea. That is not what it sounds like. It is a massive bang, and then you get a flash of light right in front of you. Right, if they miss you, and luckily enough for us, they did miss, but it seemed. I don't know if it's true or not, but it seemed if it just flew right in front of me, like in between my driver and me on the tank.
Oh, wow.
Flew right over us, and that was the first time we had ever been engaged. So I dropped down into the turret.
Game on, right?
Dropped down into the turret, popped back up, charged to 240, launched a couple of rounds. My platoon sergeant / tank commander, he picked up his M4 and was like, pop. It's like, I just like turned to him and was like, really? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we're gonna do that when I've got the 240 Bravo. Like, come on, man, I got this. You just sit there, look pretty, Yeah.
So it was actually a really big wake up call because we had never experienced anything at that point, and it wasn't just maybe a week or so after that we got hit with an IED. Fast forward from Uday and Kusei's incident, then we captured Saddam. That same night, we got shot at with another RPG. Luckily enough, they're really bad shots because they missed us again. I'll never forget that night because we were sitting post up at a gas station because Saddam had been caught. Baghdad is basically rioting in celebration because of it, right? We were tasked to go to a gas station to make sure that people didn't like steal all the gas, petrol, bizzing, whatever you want to call it.
It would make sense, sure.
My loader, who was driving the first time we got shot at, our crew was full up, so he was in the loader's hatch, and he was telling us about how he single-handedly had caught Saddam, and how he had hooked up with some Delta Force guys and was able to find him and everything. And he was just going on this big stupid show, this stupid story. And he's like, you remember that I had to leave last night, right? And we're like, yeah, you went to the pisser. And he's like, no, that's not where I went. I was like, went into this big long story. And then he's like, oh crap. And we're like, what? And he's like, they just shot at us. And we're like, yeah, shut the fuck, shut up, whatever.
Yeah,
and
he did.
he's like, no, I'm dead serious. We just got shot at by an RPG. And
now let me ask you this real quick. An RPG hits an Abrams tank. How bad could it get?
Depends on where they hit it, right? So if they hit in the front slope, or if they hit the front slope of the turret, let's say, there is 24 inches of depleted uranium armor. It's not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
If anything, if there's personnel up out of the hatches,
sure, they're going
to get hit with some shrapnel that could cause some casualties, if not KIAs.
Right.
My roommate from Korea, Brud Cronkite, good salt of the earth type of dude. That's what got him. Freaking RPG was shot at his tank. the RPG got shot at the tank and it deflected off of the front slope and took him. So shrapnel or the projectile itself, whatever you want to call it.
The actual projectile. Yeah. Wow.
Took him.
It could take a track out pretty easily, could it not?
Yeah, like a 113 or maybe one of the LAV 3s. Is that what they call it with the Marine?
We call LAVs. Yeah.
Maybe even it would probably damage a striker pretty bad.
Okay.
But if
Abrams
you hit,
are pretty solid though.
They are pretty solid unless you get it like right up the butt or in the back of the turret. That's going to be where it's probably not as armored, So luckily for us, both times they missed us. So there was that. There's another time we were informed that there was an IED that we needed to go check out. And where we were stationed in Baghdad, we were at the interchange of the Abu Ghraib highway that would run east and west, and then Route 1 that ran north and south. We were right there.
Pretty big intersection.
It is, yeah. Just to the east of Highway 1 on Abu Ghraib is a kind of a flyover for pedestrians for them to walk over the highway, right? And we had been told that there was a bomb that was underneath that. So we roll up, and sure enough, there's a 155 round just sitting there. And my tank commander, yeah, it was like my tank commander was like, "Hey, Grim, what is that?" And I walk over there and I look at it, and I was like, I turn around and look at him, and I was like, "It's a 155 round." And he's like, Is it hooked up to anything? And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, just bring it over here."
Wow.
I pick up this 155 round, throw it on my shoulder, and walk across 3 lanes of highway and throw it on the back of the tank.
Why wouldn't you? That's hilarious.
Another time we got flagged down by some pedestrians and they were pointing down in the ditch. Once again, my tank commander was like, "Hey, Grim, what's that over there?" And I walk over there and I look down in the weeds and look back up at him. It's like, "It's a grenade." And he's like, "Well, just bring it on over here." So here I am.
Use it. Let's go. Come on.
Pick up the Soviet grenade and walk over to the tank and put it into the muscle rack.
That is so awesome. That is great.
2003 was the Wild West when it comes to, obviously stability operations in Baghdad, at least in my sector. If we wanted to do something, if we were bored, let's go do a combat patrol. There were times that we would leave our fob, like dead serious. We would leave the fob in a combat patrol with 2 tanks to go get pizza.
Why wouldn't you?
Dead serious. We found a pizzeria in our sector.
Was it good pizza, by the way?
It was okay. It was different.
It was pizza. Yeah.
It was very, very thin. They always had an olive in the center of it, but it was cooked in a wood fire stove, right?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So we would get everybody's order, and they were like 14-inch size pizzas, right? So they were pretty small. So
yeah, everyone had their own at least. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So here we are. A tank platoon's like 14 guys, so we go and buy 14 pizzas and bring it back. And that was our
say no. You're walking around in tanks, so I mean they're not going to say no to you.
Exactly, right.
And I imagine your order got moved to the front of the line when they saw you strolling down the road. Oh crap, they might be coming here.
Well, they knew that they could pretty much charge us whatever they wanted.
Whatever.
Yeah. Because
I hear you.
We ended up with rolls of cash from, confiscated stuff, you
Sure.
know? So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, anyway, it was quite the time, to say the least.
Garaysar is a Florida-based international military arms manufacturer and equipment supplier. They produce customized solutions for American and international law enforcement, governmental agents, and the military. Garaysar manufactures both forged and billet AR-15 lowers, dedicated 9mm lowers, and 308 upper and lower receivers. So go check out the Hyperion Munitions website and click on the Garaysar Arms tab.
Real quick, got done with Baghdad, came home in April of 2004, ended up driving for a 2-star, the commanding general, Fort Riley, drove for him for a couple of years, and I was actually going to get out. At that point, I had been promoted to staff sergeant, so was able to make staff sergeant E6 in 4 years, and was just kind of done with it. And the CG was like, "Hey, I don't want to see you get out. Let's see if we can work on your schooling." And he was able to get me hooked up with a green to gold scholarship to finish my degree and become commissioned as an officer. And then I did that. Unfortunately, I went through a divorce at the same time that I was trying to complete school, and then ended up divorcing my wife at the time. Year later, ended up meeting another girl and fell in love with her, and we got married. She was in the ROTC program and did the dual military thing. She got stationed at Fort Campbell with the 101st, and because of the military spouse program, I ended up getting stationed there too, as a logistician, specifically an ordnance officer. So munitions, maintenance, that type of stuff. Went to Fort Campbell, spent just a little bit over 4 years there, deployed to Afghanistan in that time. Did my year in Afghanistan, came home. My wife at the time, my daughter's mom, she decided she was going to get out, and so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna get out too, and ended up getting out, and we both went back home to Wichita, and then got a civilian job and been doing that ever since.
That all right. No, I hear you. Veteran Ammo is the ammunition brand produced by veteran-owned and operated Hyperion Munitions, focused on the best quality training, defense ammunition, and hunting products. They leverage their military backgrounds to ensure the ammunition works every time. They offer products in centerfire handgun, rifle, and shot shell categories, and are always adding product offerings. Go visit the Hyperion Munitions website and click on the Veteran Ammo tab. Talking military now here, not in life, but military. Do you have any regrets, or if you do, like what was the biggest regret in the military?
My biggest regret in the military, I have two. Mm-hmm. The first one, I talked about getting LASIK surgery, and I got LASIK surgery because I wanted to become a pilot. I wanted to become a warrant officer, but the packet that you have to fill out to apply to become a warrant officer was so big. It was like, it was like a mountain to climb, and I didn't know how to do it. Yeah. And I just kind of gave up on it. Yeah. Turns out that the packet is almost identical to the packet that you have to fill to apply for the Green to Gold program. And I went through with that and became commissioned as an officer. The second regret that I have is when I was commissioned, I put all of my eggs into the aviation basket. I wanted to become a pilot. That's how bad I wanted to become a pilot. So I was prepared to add time to my commission from 4 years to 6 years. I was going to accept any installation to become a pilot. And unfortunately, I just didn't make the cut. I wasn't high enough on the order of merit list. So had I not done that, and had I just went back to the armor corps and became a platoon leader in a tank unit or a scout unit, I probably would have excelled a little bit better than I had. I was still really good, lieutenant in the Ordnance Corps as a logistician, but I just didn't really get it, There were people around me that just were outshining me, and understood what needed to happen. Like they could anticipate what needed to happen better than I could.
They maybe knew the game or anticipated the game a little bit.
Exactly, because logistics is more of 3D chess, whereas combat arms is like kinetic, two-dimensional type of thing. And I didn't go to the armor corps because I already knew that my wife was at Fort Campbell. There's no tanks at Fort Campbell.
Right.
There's scout platoons. There's scout units. There's cavalry units, and I could have gone there as a 19 series. Yeah. But I didn't know that, and that's the only other regret that I have. But outside of that, not too big. So
yeah. So this is a question that I get asked by people that didn't serve, or especially kids that are thinking about, and I get a lot of people say, hey, about military, and obviously I would tell them go Air Force. That's just, if you want to go Air Force. Let's just be real. No, I will say that if people are looking to go to school and looking for a nice lifestyle and all that, Air Force is the way to go. Now, obviously I'm going to push them where I think they should belong. But a lot of people ask me, it's like, well, what does it mean to serve? And I've heard that more and more in the last probably 10 years. And I was just like, what do you mean? And so you start thinking about what does it mean to serve? And I think everybody has their own reason for serving. Right. So for you, if someone were to ask you, what does it mean to serve? What would your answer be?
It really boils down to exactly what you said at the very beginning of the podcast, is that, there's something bigger than yourself, and you're contributing to something bigger to yourself. The concept of being within a community that has each other's back, no matter what, to be a servant. And it seems really odd, but realistically, you are a servant to the United States, right? You're there to
absolutely,
exactly. You're there to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. I don't necessarily agree with the direction that a lot of the politicians are pushing our foreign policy right now, but at the it's things are really going sideways real quick right now. However,
pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's an interesting time in history, honestly, right now.
It really is.
There's many different fronts that bad stuff could happen in a minute's notice.
Yeah. I mean, you were just talking about the Marine birthday coming up here on November 10th, and Sitcom just canceled their ball, because of operational
first time in
concerns.
248 years. Operational commitments, which tells me, and I talked to some buddies that night when it came out, and I was like, some guys that I know, they're still in the know, and they're like, we're spinning up somewhere. We're going somewhere. We don't know, but don't be surprised in the next week or two, you're going to see Marines spinning up somewhere. And that's, they've never canceled the Marine Corps ball in 248 years.
Now, the other side of it is on the Army side of it, they just told 400-ish soldiers in the Army, hey, you're now a recruiter, and you have 2 weeks to get to recruiting school.
Holy cow.
You remember your orders was saying that you're going to become a drill sergeant? Nah, you're not doing that anymore. Oh, and by the way, you have 2 weeks. Figuring it out. Yeah. So that's something that
Maybe
I just
there
saw.
weren't enough people going to boot camp. They didn't need drill instructor. They need people actually recruiting people to come in at this point. I don't know.
Yeah. It is very interesting because, again, so my wife that I met in ROTC, and we got married, went to Fort Campbell together. Unfortunately, in 2019, we got a divorce. But we are like best friends. I just talked to her today on the phone. I talked to her yesterday on the phone. We talk to each other every day, almost seems like.
Right.
Better friends as ex-spouses than we were as married. But
I get it.
The interesting thing with her is she just did an 89-day TDY, or an 89-day temporary duty assignment, where her job as a field grade officer, she's a major, her job was to go to all of these different recruiting stations and to basically Lean Six Sigma their recruiting kind of strategy for that area, to find ways to entice people to join the Army. Let that sink in for a second. They sent a field grade officer, a major, to recruiting stations to help them plus up their numbers, because the regional battalion commander for those recruiting stations couldn't do it for them. That's how bad it's gotten.
It's interesting. When I was in the 90s, we were during the Clinton era, and that's when he was trying to downsize the footprint of the U.S. military. They froze promotions. It was terrible, right? Towards the end, it was terrible. And so much so, my wife, and a lot of people know this, but when I got out of the Marine Corps, I had a really bad taste in my mouth about the Marine Corps. And it took me a couple of years to kind of get over that. And then 9/11 happens, and they didn't have to, for 10, 15 years, they never had to worry about their numbers. It was, we got more than we need, and it's interesting now that we're, 20 plus years out of 9/11 and GWAT's over, basically, that now they're coming back to that struggling, we need to fill spots up, which is very interesting. And it's all cyclical, obviously, but I wonder if the politics and our foreign policy and all the stuff, maybe how we left Afghanistan, all of this stuff combined may have something to do with people like not wanting to serve. And it may not be not wanting to be in the military, but not wanting to serve where our country is right now. And that's sad.
It is. It really is. Just a side note, those 400 soldiers, I'm using round figures here, but those 400 soldiers that just got told that you're now going to be a recruiter, if you are an E5 sergeant, the moment that you complete recruiting school, you're now an E6.
Yeah.
If you are able to recruit 24 people within if you're able to recruit 24 people into the military within a 12-month period, automatic promotion to E7. So let's just take my experience as a soldier. When I was enlisted, I made E5 at 2 years, right? So I'm a sergeant. I've been a sergeant for maybe 6 months, and then all of a sudden I get orders to become a recruiter. Okay, so I go and do a recruiting school. That's, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure how long it is, but let's say that's like 6 months, right? It's probably not that long, but let's say it's 6 months. So now I'm at year 3.
A 2-year duty? Is that a 2-year duty, I guess, or is that a 1 year?
Typically, yeah. It's typically 24 months at least.
Yeah.
So I'm an E5 at 2 years. At the 2-year, 6-month mark, I get my orders to become a recruiter. By the time I get done with that, I'm at year 3. I'm now promoted to E6 with this new policy that they just had, right? At year 3, And I'm just a go-getter, and I'm able to go and get out those 24 people within
E7 at this point.
7 at 4 years. 4 years. Now, to put it in perspective, when I was back in my day, when I was my platoon sergeant in Korea was an E7 at 9 years, and that was fast track. That was a fast track duty. He joined at 18. He was 27 and an E7.
Moving on into civilian world. So you do all of this, and you get out, and you get this job, and you have this life, and you start the YouTube thing, you start the training, all of that stuff. We're going to get into some of that here in a little bit, but real quick, the gist of this is, what did you learn in the military that transitioned you, that helped you be successful, like skills or mindsets or whatever that allowed you to be successful in your civilian life after the military?
Yep. So it's a really tough question to answer, but I can bring it into one very concise idea. Sure. And it is the concept of having a sense of urgency, right? And when you, especially for combat arms, when you're a tanker, an infantry guy, an artillery guy, even a scout, orderman, whatever, there is always a go mentality, right? Charge towards the cannons, that type of thing. And it transcends all of your daily activities. So you never want to be the last guy falling into the formation. You never want to be the last guy packing up your stuff, or whatever the case may be. So there was always this internal competition, or even this internal anxiety that you've got to get things done. You got to get things done.
With years of expertise and experience, Orikany Arms is proud to be regarded as a firearms manufacturing leader. Every decision is inspired by the main mission, which is to prove the highest standard of product and services to both retailers and customers. Orikany Arms took their expertise and introduced a line of full-size American-made Series 1911 chambered in 45 ACP, 10mm, and 9mm. So go check out the Hyperion Munitions website and click on the Orikany Arms tab. Knowing what you know now, is there any advice for the guys and gals that are getting ready to either retire or just transition out, and their EAS is coming up and they're going to transition out of the service, knowing now versus what you knew then? Is there anything that you could give advice to say, hey, this is something you might want to think about or you might want to do?
Yeah. I know for a fact that those programs for transitioning soldiers have improved quite a bit. Extract every bit of information that you can. Look into the VOC rehab programs that the VA offers. I can tell you it's really not my forte, but VOC rehab offers some really great opportunities to learn how to become a welder or an electrician or a line serviceman for power companies.
Yep.
Those people, those jobs,
Are you talking about a Wichita linesman? Surely you didn't just go there. Wow. What are the odds of Wichita? No, it's a great Glenn Campbell song. For most of you people that are listening, you have no idea who Glenn Campbell is, but he had a great song called The Wichita Linesman. Never mind.
But no, so these jobs, a lot of people don't really think about, and just don't, really think that they could fit into those jobs. But I can tell you, a line serviceman for a power company coming out of community college, voc rehab, vocational school, coming out of that, immediate starting position is usually about 60,000. Which
with benefits, with good benefits.
Yes, and in most cases for these vocational schools that train these guys to become, servicemen, more times than not, you front the money for the first semester or maybe the first year, and then they have a scholarship program that they end up paying for the remainder of your time in school, and then you are automatically
have a job for. Yeah,
exactly right.
It might be a 2 or 3 year commitment, but they're going to pay for your school. That's great.
Working with the job fair here at Fort Riley, and just being, an advocate for the programs that they have. I know that there are companies such as Caterpillar. Caterpillar is a really interesting company that supports the armed forces very well. Here in the state of Kansas, they have a program that they will take individuals, put them through school, and then have a job ready for them. They pay for the school, and they have a job ready for them as a welder.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah. And you're making, I think as a welder, depending on your experience and how well you are, they kind of test you a little bit, but you're talking salary somewhere in the 20s, I would say, probably $20 figure, somewhere between the $15 to $20 mark, just starting
out. Yeah.
Which, okay, may not necessarily sound like a lot when you have a lot of politicians calling for a fight for $15 minimum wage or whatever. But, for someone just coming out of the military who might be a specialist, making $20 an hour is comparable or even better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. One of the other things that I will throw in there too is know your worth, right? When you're writing your resume, you need to explain every minute little thing that you did from a leadership perspective or even a technical perspective. If you were in a very technical field in the military, you need to explicitly outline every little thing that you did. And the reason why I say that is when I got out and got my first civilian job, I ended up taking about a $30,000 pay cut to go from a O2E pay grade. So, I had prior service as a first lieutenant when I got out. So I was making pretty good money. We're talking 2013, I guess, when I finally got out. I was making in the 70K.
Yep.
Got out
with a lot of free benefits, so it's really nice. Yeah.
Healthcare, dental,
everything. I had my daughter for $18, I believe.
$25. Yep.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
For my daughter. But making sure that you have that resume filled out as best as you possibly can to really get that job, get that really good job, and then to negotiate for your salary. If you're going into that type of line of work. Now, if you're transitioning and you're going to something that is, an hourly wage, you might be able to have the ability to negotiate your salary then too. But for individuals that are transitioning from, say, like what I did in logistics, moving from military logistics to an operations supervisor for a logistics company.
Right.
I was a salary employee and I negotiated my salary. I didn't get what I wanted, but I walked in as the new guy getting paid more than the guys that had been there already, so
exactly.
But yeah.
I'd tell people all the time, and what you said about knowing your worth also, if you're out there listening, is also skills and skill sets and mindsets of knowing your worth. A lot of people are told that without a college degree that you'll never make it in today's world. And basically what I'll tell you is a college degree is a piece of paper that said for 4 or 5 years you were able to accomplish these goals. Well, guess what your DD-214, your honorable discharge is? It's a piece of paper that said for 4, 5, 8, 12, 20, whatever it is, you were able to accomplish these certain tasks. Now, as an employer, and I'm hiring people, and I have a 20, let's just take these in generalities, a 22-year-old kid that graduated from college, or a 22-year-old kid that spent 4 years in the military, and all things are equal, who am I taking? I'm taking the military guy, not because I'm a veteran myself, but look, you understand the value of time, like you said, urgency, but you understand the value of time. You understand the value of teamwork. You understand the value of mission accomplished under all circumstances. These are skills that the 22-year-old kid that just graduated from a state college probably do not have. So if you're out there listening and you don't know what your value is, and you think that because you've been told for so long that you have to be XYZ to succeed in life, understand what you bring to the table. You bring leadership, you bring experience, you bring an ability to work under high stress and high pressure environments. You understand teamwork, and you understand the value of time. Yeah. Those are incredibly attractive traits that all employers are looking for. So don't ever think that you don't bring anything to the table. That's aside from the training that you've actually had at whatever your MOS is. That's aside from, these are just general traits that every serviceman and woman's going to learn. So the people are out there says, I don't bring anything to the table. Man, you bring a lot more than you think, you know?
Yeah. And I think the civilian sector is yearning for that more so now, you know.
I agree.
I really don't want to talk down to anyone, but we have a younger generation that is moving up that has this sense of entitlement.
Yes, they do.
Unfortunately, we kind of paved that path for them, you know. We patted them on the bottom, and we gave them a trophy for every little thing that they did, you know, and all these other things. Whether we realized we were doing harm or good, we don't know, you know. We may not have known at that time, right? And I'm not to say that everyone did that. I'm not saying that at all. But I can reflect back.
Our generation has done that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think I was in the 5th grade when safety scissors became a thing, you know?
Man, I'm a little bit older than you are. Might have been high school. Like it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing for me because I was kind of past that age that we would need safety scissors, you know? So it wasn't a thing, but I get when they came out. Yeah.
Yeah. If someone fell off the jungle gym and broke their arm, you know, that was a normal thing. If that didn't happen in a year, we're like, whoa, what happened? What's going on? What's in the water? You know? So, and that's not to say that everyone in this younger generation is that way. I know my son, my
daughter's not, thank God.
Yeah. My son, he got a free ride to Kansas State University for the first semester, and he bombed out. And he wasn't prepared for it. I fault myself for that. But at the end of the day, here it is 6 years later, and he's now working at a nonprofit organization for foster kids who his job is to create and set up events for all of these foster kids, you know? And I'm like,
awesome.
That's weird. I would have never expected him to do it, but he's a go-getter, you know?
Right.
It's really surprising to see.
Well, you also like to think that as a parent, you've raised your kids right. But ultimately, what our job is to prepare them to leave the house, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And part of that is not what you teach them or what you tell them or what you show them. It's we don't know when they're watching.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, and I'm very proud of my daughter. She's 26 years old. You know, I will tell you the one thing that I know that I've instilled in my daughter that I'm the most proud of is her work ethic. And work ethic means so much. He's a go-getter. Your son's a go-getter. That's work ethic. And I am more happy of my daughter's work ethic than anything else about her and her normal life, because you don't have to know everything. But if you have a strong work ethic, you're going to be willing and able to outwork people and learn. And that's where I think a lot of the kids, like you said, the entitlement is out there. They want everything handed to them. They don't want to go work. They don't want to earn it. And that's where I have a problem with it.
Yeah. And you know, so you look at the younger generation now, and one of the people that I point to, this may seem a little cliche, but you do YouTube stuff. I do YouTube stuff. And one of the guys that I point to, regardless if you agree or disagree on his positions on anything, is Tim Pool. Tim Pool, a lot of people don't know this, but he hopped from one friend to another and slept on their couches while he was out doing his investigative journalism. When, oh man, what was the situation in Wall Street with everybody that was protesting the Wall Street stuff back in like 2014?
Are you talking about like the interest rate stuff?
Well, it wasn't the interest rate stuff. There was a lot of protests that people that went down to Wall Street and just like camped out in the road and the parks. And stuff like that. You remember that? Yeah,
I do. Yeah.
So, man, I'm really having a brain fart on what that was called, but you had all these people that went down there and it's like, hey, we've got to fight all of this, you know, freaking ridiculousness that was happening. Tim Pool goes down there and just starts interviewing people, and that's how he kind of got his start. And in the meantime, he was hustling and sleeping on friends' couches and just continue to keep his eye on the prize and hustling and hustling and hustling. And now he's one of the biggest podcasters, YouTubers that's out there besides like Joe Rogan or somebody like that.
Yeah.
And there's
Occupy Wall Street.
There it is. Yep. That's exactly it. Yep. So that's how he got his start. And the whole point is there are these young guys who are out there hustling, you know, and that's really, really cool to see. And so I don't like to lump everybody in that, but coming full circle, we are now starting to see companies, we see companies that are yearning for leadership, for those people who have that hustle, who are just wanting someone to fill a role that the military can, you know, inject into their business to give them a little bit of a jump, you know.
It's going to be an interesting question. Everything that you've gone through and moving into now with being success in your civilian job and having the YouTube and doing all the training and stuff that you do, which we'll go into here in the closing, everything that's happened over the last 20 some odd years of your life, since you took that oath to today, all things being equal, would you go back and do it all again or not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, would I've made different decisions along the way? Yeah, probably. Sure. Yeah,
absolutely. I know I would have. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that would I've stood up to my dad and said, no, I'm going into the Marines. I don't care what you say. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But absolutely. The military really taught me who I was. in high school, I kind of bounced around from one identity to another,
Sure.
freshman year, sophomore year, I was kind of a preppy kid. Junior year, I was kind of a grunge kid that just kind of bucked the system. And then my senior year, I just went along with the flow with whatever it was.
Let's
right?
get out of here. Let's just get out of this. Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't know who I was. I didn't understand.
You weren't supposed to, though. We look back on now and say everyone thought we did, but you weren't supposed to know at 18 what you wanted to do in life.
Absolutely. But even still, I didn't really have a stance of, I believe this. I will stand up for this. I will die on this hill for this belief. I didn't have any of that until I got into the military and realized, there is something way bigger than me, and I'm going to have to fight day in and day out to protect that. And that doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything that the military says I have to do. But at the end of the day, I'm here to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And even to this day, as cynical as I am, as conspiracy theory ridden as I am, I still will go back to that day in and day out. I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
The brotherhood, the camaraderie, the esprit de corps that you learn how to, like you said, you learn how to understand that it's something bigger than you. Yep. And for whatever reason, that's enough, right? It gets you through a lot of shit, is that it's bigger than me. Whether or not it should, but it does. It gets you through. But I think a lot of people are yearning for that. I think there's a lot of people that are yearning for purpose. I think there are people that not everyone's designed to go to college. Not everyone's designed to go to a technical school to learn a trade or whatever. And I tell people all the time, there are worse things in life than joining the military.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that the military may be a life-saving decision for them. It can change their life. And so I tell people all the time, like, look, if military is something you're really truly interested in, we can have that conversation and we can be very blunt about having that conversation. But what I fear is that people are going to start joining the military to escape something else.
Yeah. And
that's not what we need in the military, in my opinion. That's just me.
I mean, it's the tale as old as time. We've seen that, decade after decade. In the Army, I don't know if you guys had it in the Marines, but in the Army, we had a running cadence, and part of the running cadence was join the military or go to jail.
Yep.
So
no,
join the Army or go to jail. And then we're
one of my best friends who ended up dying. But one of my best friends in the Marine Corps was there. He was a swimmer at Ball State University, like a college swimmer, got messed up with some roommates and teammates that were credit card fraud, and literally had the decision, jail, military. Now, it wasn't Marine Corps, it was military. And he was a competitor. He was an athlete. He's like, well, if I'm going to do this, then let's go to the Marine Corps, Sure. But he literally had that decision, jail or military. And it's a real thing, Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So
it's awesome. Tell people what you're doing now with YouTube, and you do a lot of training and all of that, that people that might know you as Fit and Fire, people might not know anything about you. Now they're learning about you as Fit and Fire on YouTube. So tell people a little bit about the journey through YouTube and the training and all that you're doing now.
So got out of the military, and you get into the military and you have a sense of purpose, and then you get out and you kind of lose that sense a little bit. So I drifted for a couple of years trying to figure out what I was wanting to do. And my middle school buddy of mine, actually, he's like, hey man, let's do this YouTube thing, and everybody's doing it. I think you're opinionated, you like to talk. So why not just talk in front of the talk in front of the camera, you know? So that's what I ended up doing to start a channel. And at the time I was still, still into fitness. So you have to have some type of shtick, with
absolutely,
separate you from everybody else, right? So it came to realization in the civilian world after getting out in the military. I saw some things in the military for sure, but then outside the military, back into the civilian life, and had a couple of different things happen that really opened up my eyes to say, it's cool for us to be able to conceal carry and kind of be that first responder type of thing, that mentality. I really hate to say this word, but that sheepdog, it's so cringy to say these days, but
it's what it is.
It is, right? So, but then I started looking around at some of the people, even some of my friends that were kind of getting into that mentality. And I was like, dude, can you run a mile? Can you lift your own body weight? I just started kind of asking these questions in my own head. And I was like, this is something that needs to be discussed, Yeah. If you want to carry a firearm to protect yourself, to protect your loved ones, protect your family, that's great. That is absolutely wonderful. But I can tell you from my own personal experience, the moment that you pull the trigger, or have the trigger pulled at you,
your life is different.
It's completely different. And there is something that is going to happen physiologically inside your body, not only with the adrenaline dump that goes into your system, that fight or flight scenario that you're going to get put into. Can your body physically tolerate that? Just from a chemicals aspect. And I've known people, not personally, but I've heard of situations where people get into a situation where they have to exert themselves. They get this massive adrenaline dump into their body. And the next thing you know, 15 minutes after their life or death situation, they're dead because their body could not handle the shock. Yeah. People die from shock more so than a lot of people realize. And one of the ways that you curb that is through being physically fit to do certain things, to be active. I'm not saying that you have to be able to run a marathon, by no means.
Right.
My girlfriend just did a half marathon just a couple of days ago over the weekend. And
screw that, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. She asked me if I wanted to do it, and I was like, no, I do not run. I'll cycle. Now, I do run. I don't.
I can't run. My knees are so bad it hurts. Now, getting on an exercise bike and riding a bike where there's no impact, I'm good with that. But running, I can't do much anymore. It's so bad.
So, get into this YouTube thing, and I just really wanted to try to promote a healthy lifestyle. I'm not saying that anyone has to be a bodybuilder. I'm not saying you have to be someone like Grand Thumb, who is just a specimen of a man, right? I'm not saying that you have to do that, but what I am saying is you need to be able to defend yourself and defend your loved ones and survive through it. Now, if the light switch gets shut off in you because you made a wrong mistake, that's just the way the cards lay, right?
Yep.
But it's not because you're not physically fit, right? My goals, my personal goals that I'm still continuing to strive for is I want to be able to lift my body weight in several different manners, whether it be bench press, power clean, squat, deadlift, whatever the case may be. I want to be able to at the very least lift my body weight multiple times, not just a 1 rep max, multiple times. I want to be able to run 3 to 3.5 miles in about a 9-minute pace, right? I want to be able to run a mile with, at the very least, a plate carrier on, or some type of
sure.
some being encumbered, right? Maybe I have to pick my daughter up and I have to get her out of a situation. Can I do that? Can I run with my daughter in my arms for 100 yards, half a mile, a mile? You know, those are some of the things that goes through my thought process. Now, how do you get there? How do you do that? Well, you know, you figure out a training program and that's kind of something that my cameraman Heffy and I have been talking about slowly in our podcast. And in this podcast we just recorded, that's going to be out on the 15th, we talk about how do we get going from a fitness aspect. And the biggest takeaway from that discussion is find something that is going to be enjoyable for you, regardless of what it is. Maybe it's cycling, maybe it's swimming, maybe it's Taibo. You know, that's dating me a little bit, but you know,
I remember Taibo. It's dating both of us. Yes.
Maybe it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu, whatever the case may be. But
absolutely,
those are the types of things that I'm trying to inject into my YouTube channel, my social media presence, the podcast, so on and so forth, to not only promote, well, the tagline is promote freedom through strength, right? You're going to have freedom through your strength of body, mind, and soul, you know? So if you can strengthen all three of those aspects, you're going to be probably the freest person ever. And that's just kind of the goal of everything that I've tried to do since I started this YouTube channel.
Mark, awesome conversation. Thanks for coming on. I do want to give you a few minutes now to kind of self-promote a little bit, which I know you don't necessarily like doing, but I'm going to let you self-promote. Tell people what projects you have coming up and where they can find you.
Yeah. So you can find me on YouTube. Just search Fit in Fire. In any of the combinations, I think I've covered most of them in my tags. So you can find me there. You can find me on Instagram, fitin_fire, or you can find the podcast as well, Live Laugh Larp _podcast on Instagram as well. Some of the projects that I've got coming up, man, I've got a whole laundry list of things that I got to catch up on, but we've got some really cool stuff with some. I like to do budget stuff. You know, there's a lot of budget stuff out there that's not too bad. I've got a new pistol from G-Force. They've come out with a new kind of Glock 26 clone type of thing going on that has some really got some pretty cool features that I really like with it. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. I've got I just did some stuff on the IWI Carmel rifle, which is really interesting.
Such a sexy beast, man.
Yep. I've got some AK stuff. I'm big into AKs. Love AKs. I got a lot of different furniture sets that I'm going to do some reviews on.
Now, real quick, do you go to Clash Bash? Are you big into going to Clash? That's one thing that I've wanted. That's a bucket list thing for me. I would love to do that. Is it worth it? Obviously, you keep going, so it's probably worth it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. For those people that don't know, Clash Bash is a 3-day event. Usually it's in October. This year, they've reset it back to the spring. So you have AK shooting competitions, right? So you think 3-gun, but they don't do pistol or shotgun with it. It's just AK only. Just straight AK
stuff.
Yeah, straight AK.
Now,
so
any variant? Does it matter which AK? Or can you rock whatever you want? Are they gonna? You can do whatever.
Yeah, you can. There's been guys that have showed up with RPKs. The civilian, the civilian and not civilian versions. All right.
Awesome.
As long as it has an AK operating system. Right. So that includes the Valmets, that includes the Galils, that includes the VZ58. It's kind of that's a very fringe operating system, but they'll still allow it. So AK-74, AK-47, even the 5.56 AKs, they allow that. And you come out. you can compete. You can either compete 8 stages on Friday, or you split it up, 4 stages on Saturday, 4 stages on Sunday. There is a carnival atmosphere. They do a huge bonfire Saturday night that this year they're going to have some bands, and they're going to have night vision stuff that you can try out. And then it's just a huge community thing. You got people that show up and they just LARP the entire time. They have huge giveaways the entire on Sunday evening. They do this massive giveaway. One of the prizes that they have is for the person who stayed in costume the entire weekend, right? So one year, I think it wasn't this past year, but the year before, this dude showed up in one of the I don't remember what kind of armor it was, but it's like the EOD armor.
Oh yeah, like the big green thing.
Yeah, but it's the Soviet version, right?
Oh snap.
Yeah, it was.
You look like a juggernaut base is what you're saying. You look like a juggernaut.
Yeah, yes. And in October, when it's like 90 degrees, this dude stayed in uniform, stayed in outfit the entire time, right? And he ended up winning a prize for that. They have massive giveaways. They give away tons of rifles and accessories and stuff like that. It's a good time. It's definitely, and you don't even need to compete. You can just come out and pay the general admission price and just hang out. You can go and watch people compete. You can go and check out all the vendors that's going to be there. And then you just hang out for the giveaway on Sunday night, So
that's pretty awesome.
I encourage everybody to check it out. Yeah,
for sure.
So, other projects that I've got going on, I've got a whole laundry list of different things. I'm doing some red dot torture tests for budget red dots that I like to kind of beat around and see how well they do. So, some of those gym, not so expensive Amazon finds type of thing.
Absolutely.
So that type of stuff too. So, and then we've talked about it several times, the podcast as well. So yeah,
I can't wait. I love the idea of your podcast and all that, so I can't wait to see it evolve and all that. My friend, it was great seeing you up in Wichita. Thanks for coming on. Can't wait to see you in Vegas at SHOT Show and all of that. But guys, go check out Fit and Fire and all of his projects. And he's it's a phenomenal channel. He's a great human being and all of that. So go check him out. Get up to the range. Be more proficient with your firearms, guys. Stay in tune of what's going on with your local, state, federal, and all the two-way legislation. Guys, if your elected representatives aren't doing their jobs, next year's an election year. There is a way to make that change. So make sure you're keeping in touch with your elected officials, representatives, and make sure the two-way legislation that you would like to be out there, or whatever legislation that you're worried about in life, is getting taken care of. Most importantly, guys, I don't care what freedoms you do want to enjoy, just enjoy your freedoms of being American, one of which is to keep and bear arms. We'll see you soon. Happy birthday, Marine Corps. Happy veterans. Thank you to everyone that chose to raise their right hand and defend and support the Constitution of the United States. It means a lot to everyone. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Mark, for your service. And we'll see you soon, guys. Semper Fi. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching this podcast on YouTube or listening to it in all of the podcast platforms. If you like what you hear, like what you see, you like the content, go ahead and subscribe over there on YouTube to Ghost Tactical. Make sure you're following the podcast and give us a good rating. It all does help in the algorithms. More importantly, guys, go check out our sponsors with Hyperion Munitions. They've got Garaysar Arms, Orikany Arms, Veteran Ammo, Operator Coffee, and everything under the Hyperion Munitions umbrella. Check them out at HyperionMunitions.com. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you soon. Semper Fi.